The sun was setting over New Haven City, casting orange and pink hues across the sky. In this futuristic city, flying cars zipped through the air, drones patrolled the streets, and towering buildings glowed with neon lights. But for 16-year-old Amara Johnson, none of that mattered right now. She had just finished her robotics club meeting at school and was walking home, carrying her latest invention, a small, sleek drone she called Luna. Amara loved building things. Her room was filled with gadgets, wires, and half-finished projects. Luna was special because it could help people. It had sensors to detect danger, a camera to record events, and even a tiny speaker to communicate with others. Amara dreamed of using Luna to assist first responders during emergencies or search and rescue missions. Tonight, though, Luna was tucked safely inside a backpack, ready to be tested at home. As Amara walked down the quiet street, she felt proud of her work. She hummed softly to herself, thinking about how far she'd come since starting robotics last year. But her peaceful thoughts were interrupted by the sound of heavy boots behind her. She turned around and saw a police officer approaching. His name tag read Officer Grayson, and his face looked stern under the visor of his helmet. "Stop right there," Officer Grayson said, raising a hand. His voice was sharp and commanding. Amara froze, unsure why he was stopping her. She hadn't done anything wrong. "Is everything okay?" Amara asked politely, clutching her backpack tighter. Grayson didn't answer immediately. Instead, he scanned her from head to toe, his eyes narrowing as they landed on the backpack. "What do you have in there?" he demanded. "It's just my project," Amara replied quickly. "I'm part of the robotics club at school. This is something I made." She smiled nervously, hoping he would understand. But Grayson wasn't listening. He stepped closer, towering over her. "Open it," he ordered. Amara hesitated for a moment, but then unzipped the bag carefully. Inside was Luna, looking harmless and innocent. Its shiny surface reflected the dim streetlights. Amara picked it up gently and held it out for him to see. "This is my drone," she explained. "It's not dangerous. It's designed to help people, see?" She pressed a button, and Luna's propellers whirred to life. It hovered a few inches above her palm before settling back down. Grayson frowned deeply. To him, the drone didn't look like a harmless invention. It looked suspicious, too advanced for someone so young. And besides, he had already decided what kind of person Amara was based on her appearance. His mind jumped to conclusions without any evidence. "You expect me to believe this is just a school project?" he snapped. "This thing looks like military-grade tech." Amara shook her head, trying to stay calm. "No, sir, it's not. I promise. It's just a prototype. I built it myself." Grayson ignored her protests. He grabbed the drone from her hands and examined it closely. Then he pulled out his tablet and tapped on it furiously. A red alert flashed on the screen. "Unauthorized device detected." "That's impossible," Amara said, panic creeping into her voice. "There must be a mistake. My drone isn't registered yet because it's still in testing." "Well, that's your problem, isn't it?" Grayson sneered. "Operating unregistered tech is against the law. You're coming with me." Before Amara could argue further, Grayson grabbed her arm roughly and shoved her toward his patrol car. She stumbled, dropping her backpack onto the ground. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she bit her lip to hold them back. She knew crying wouldn't help. She needed to stay strong. As they drove to the station, Amara stared out the window, watching the glowing city fade into darkness. Her mind raced with questions. Why was this happening? What would happen next? Would anyone believe her side of the story? At the police station, Grayson took Amara to a holding cell. The walls were cold and gray, and the air smelled metallic. There were no windows, only a single light bulb hanging from the ceiling. Amara sat on the hard bench, hugging her knees to her chest. For the first time, she felt truly alone. Meanwhile, miles away, Marcus Johnson was finishing up a late-night meeting at FBI headquarters. As a decorated agent specializing in cybercrime, Marcus spent most of his days tracking criminals who used advanced technology for illegal activities. Tonight, however, his focus shifted dramatically when his neural implant buzzed urgently. The implant was a cutting-edge device embedded in his brain, allowing him to access data instantly. When Marcus activated it, a holographic display appeared in front of his eyes. The message read, "Alert, your daughter, Amara Johnson, has been detained by local authorities." Marcus's heart sank. He immediately accessed the live feed from Grayson's body camera. What he saw made his blood boil. Grayson had treated Amara like a criminal, refusing to listen to her explanations. Worse still, Marcus noticed that Grayson had planted false evidence on Luna. a digital file labeled illegal software. This isn't justice, Marcus muttered angrily. This is corruption. Determined to protect his daughter, Marcus began investigating Grayson's background. Using his FBI clearance, he pulled up years' worth of records. What he found shocked him. Grayson had a long history of targeting minority communities, often fabricating charges to justify arrests. Even worse, Marcus discovered links between Grayson and a notorious crime syndicate involved in human trafficking and tech smuggling. Back in the holding cell, Amara tried to keep her spirits up. She reminded herself that her dad would figure out what happened. He always did. But as the hours passed, doubt crept in. What if Grayson got away with this? What if no one believed her? Just then, something strange caught her attention. The security cameras in the corner of the room flickered briefly before returning to normal. Amara tilted her head, curious. Was it a glitch, or was someone tampering with the system? She decided to test her theory. Reaching into her pocket, she pulled out her neural interface wristband, a device she had designed herself. It allowed her to connect to nearby networks wirelessly. With a few quick taps, she hacked into the station's security system. Sure enough, she found weaknesses in the code. Someone, or something, was interfering with the cameras. Amara grinned despite her situation. Maybe this was her chance to fight back. If she could gather enough evidence, she might be able to prove her innocence and expose Grayson's lies. But she knew she couldn't do it alone. She needed help. Using her wristband, she sent an encrypted message to her best friend Zane. He was a genius hacker who lived for solving puzzles. Within minutes, Zane replied, "On it. Stay safe." As the night wore on, Amara felt a spark of hope. Between her dad's resources and Zane's skills, maybe they could turn this nightmare into something bigger. Something that exposed the truth and brought justice to those who deserved it. Little did she know, her arrest was just the beginning of a much larger battle. Marcus Johnson leaned back in his chair, staring at the holographic display hovering in front of him. His neural implant was still buzzing faintly, a reminder of the urgent alert he'd received earlier. The image on the screen showed Officer Grayson arresting Amara, his daughter. Marcus clenched his fists as he replayed the footage over and over again, his anger growing with each second. The video was clear. Grayson hadn't just been rude. He had been cruel. He ignored Amara's explanations, twisted her words, and even planted fake evidence on her drone. To make matters worse, Marcus could see the fear in Amara's eyes. She looked small and vulnerable under Grayson's towering frame, clutching her backpack like it was her only lifeline. "This isn't right," Marcus muttered under his breath. "No one treats my daughter like that." He stood up abruptly, pacing across the room. The FBI headquarters was quiet at this hour, the hum of computers and glowing screens providing the only noise. Marcus usually found comfort in the solitude, but tonight all he felt was rage. He couldn't shake the image of Amara being shoved into the patrol car, her head bowed in defeat. But Marcus wasn't just any father. He was a seasoned FBI agent trained to handle high-pressure situations. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to focus. Panicking wouldn't help Amara. What she needed now was action and justice. Using his neural implant, Marcus accessed Grayson's personnel file. The information appeared instantly on the hologram display. As he scrolled through the records, his jaw tightened. Grayson's history was filled with complaints about racial profiling, excessive force, and falsified reports. Yet somehow, he always managed to avoid serious consequences. It was infuriating. "He's not just corrupt," Marcus whispered. "He's dangerous." Determined to dig deeper, Marcus tapped into the city's surveillance network. Every streetlight, drone, and security camera in New Haven City fed data into a central system monitored by the government. With his clearance level, Marcus could access everything. He traced Grayson's movements over the past few days, looking for patterns or connections to other crimes. It didn't take long to find something suspicious. Grayson had been meeting with a man named Victor Kane, a known associate of the Black Claw Syndicate, a criminal organization notorious for smuggling illegal tech and exploiting marginalized communities. The meetings took place late at night in abandoned warehouses on the outskirts of town. Marcus frowned. What did Grayson want with the Black Claw Syndicate? And why was he targeting someone like Amara? As he continued investigating, Marcus uncovered more disturbing details. Grayson wasn't working alone. Several other officers in his precinct were involved in similar schemes, accepting bribes and covering up crimes in exchange for money and favors. They formed a tight-knit group that operated above the law, protected by their badges and influence. Marcus knew exposing them wouldn't be easy. These men had powerful allies, and taking them down would require overwhelming evidence. But Marcus also knew something else. He wasn't going to stop until every last one of them paid for what they'd done. Meanwhile, Amara sat in her holding cell, trying to keep her mind sharp. She had already hacked into the station's security system using her wristband, discovering vulnerabilities she could exploit. Now she focused on gathering intel. The cameras might be glitchy, but they still recorded everything. If she could retrieve the footage of her arrest, she could prove Grayson's lies. Her thoughts were interrupted when Zane replied to her encrypted message. A tiny notification blinked on her wristband screen. Access granted. Streaming data now. Amara smiled faintly. Zane was fast, as usual. Working together, they established a secure connection between her wristband and his computer. Within moments, streams of data began flowing between them. Zane analyzed the station's network while Amara searched for anything useful: security feeds, arrest logs, officer profiles. Found something interesting. Zane messaged after a few minutes. Grayson has a private server. Looks like he stores sensitive info there. Amara's heart skipped a beat. Private servers meant secrets, and secrets meant leverage. Can you hack it? She typed back. Already on it, Zane replied confidently. Give me 5 minutes. While waiting, Amara reviewed the files Zane had sent her so far. Most of them were routine police reports, but one document caught her eye. It was a contract signed by Grayson and someone named Victor Kane. The terms mentioned payments in exchange for confiscated tech. Amara's stomach churned. Her drone was listed among the items scheduled for delivery. They're selling my drone, she realized aloud, to criminals. The thought made her sick. Luna wasn't just a gadget. It was her creation, her dream. She had poured countless hours into building it, hoping it would do good in the world. Now, thanks to Grayson, it might end up in the hands of people who would use it for harm. Just then, Zane's voice crackled through her wristband. Got it. I'm inside Grayson's server. You won't believe what I found. What is it? Amara asked eagerly. Videos, audio recordings, bank transfers. Enough dirt to bury him 10 times over. This guy's dirty as hell. Amara's eyes widened. Send everything to me. We'll need it to prove he framed me. On it, Zane said. Also, FYI, your dad's looking for you too. Be careful. Amara hesitated. She hadn't told Zane about the neural implant her dad used. She figured he must have guessed. Either way, hearing that Marcus was involved gave her a sense of relief. If anyone could fix this mess, it was him. Back at FBI headquarters, Marcus had pieced together enough evidence to confirm his suspicions. Grayson wasn't just a bad cop. He was part of a larger conspiracy. The Black Claw Syndicate wasn't just smuggling tech. They were stealing inventions from young innovators like Amara and selling them to the highest bidder. Luna was likely worth millions on the black market. But Marcus knew stopping them wouldn't be simple. The syndicate had deep pockets and powerful friends. Taking them down would require precision and timing. He opened a secure channel to his team, briefing them on the situation. "We've got a rogue cop working with organized crime," he explained. "Their next move is an auction tomorrow night. That's where they'll sell stolen tech, including my daughter's drone." His team nodded grimly. They understood the stakes. This wasn't just about catching criminals. It was about protecting innocent lives. "We'll need to act fast," Marcus continued. "I'll infiltrate the auction digitally using my implant. Meanwhile, we'll gather physical evidence to expose them publicly. No one walks away clean." As the meeting ended, Marcus allowed himself a moment of reflection. He thought about Amara, the way her face lit up when she talked about robotics, the pride she took in her work. She reminded him of himself at her age, curious, determined, unafraid to challenge the status quo. "I'll get you out of this," he promised silently. "And I'll make sure no one ever hurts you again." By morning, Amara had gathered enough evidence to build a strong case against Grayson. She forwarded the files to Zane, who uploaded them to a secure cloud server. Together, they planned their next move. "I've got a friend who can broadcast this stuff live," Zane told her. "If we time it right, we can ruin Grayson during the auction." Amara nodded, though Zane couldn't see her. "Good, let's hit them where it hurts." As the sun rose over New Haven City, both father and daughter prepared for battle. Marcus armed himself with technology and strategy, while Amara relied on her wits and ingenuity. Though separated by distance, they shared the same goal: justice. Little did they know, the hardest part was yet to come. The sun had fully risen over New Haven City. painting the skyline with soft golden light. But for Marcus Johnson and his daughter Amara, there was no time to admire the view. Both were focused on the same mission, exposing Officer Grayson and bringing down the Black Claw Syndicate. Though they were miles apart physically, their minds were working together like gears in a well-oiled machine. Marcus sat at his desk in FBI headquarters, staring at the holographic display hovering in front of him. The data he collected painted a grim picture. Grayson wasn't just corrupt. He was deeply entrenched in the syndicate's operations. Tomorrow night's auction would be the perfect opportunity to catch him red-handed. But Marcus knew timing was everything. One wrong move could ruin everything. Meanwhile, Amara was still stuck in her holding cell, but she wasn't idle. Her wristband hummed softly as she worked alongside Zane to organize the evidence they'd gathered. Every file, every video clip, and every transaction was carefully labeled and stored in a secure cloud server. They couldn't afford any mistakes, not when so much was at stake. Amara glanced up at the security camera in the corner of the room. It flickered faintly, a sign that Zane was keeping an eye on her. She felt a small sense of comfort knowing she wasn't alone. Still, she wished she could talk to her dad directly. He always had a way of making things seem less overwhelming. As if reading her mind, Marcus activated his neural implant and sent her a secure message. "Amara, are you okay?" Her wristband buzzed gently, and she smiled despite herself. "I'm fine, Dad," she typed back. "But I want to help." Marcus hesitated before responding. He hated involving Amara in dangerous situations, but he also knew how capable she was. She wasn't just his daughter. She was smart, resourceful, and determined. If anyone could hold their own in this fight, it was her. "All right," Marcus replied finally. "We'll work together. But you have to promise me one thing. Stay safe." Amara nodded, even though he couldn't see her. "I promise." The plan takes shape. Over the next few hours, Marcus and Amara coordinated their efforts. Using encrypted communication channels, they shared information and strategized their next moves. Marcus outlined the plan. He would infiltrate the auction digitally using his neural implant, while Amara and Zane prepared physical countermeasures to disrupt the event. "The auction will take place in an underground facility beneath Kane Tower," Marcus explained. "It's heavily guarded, but we can use your drone to disable their systems." Amara's eyes lit up at the mention of Luna. Despite everything that had happened, her invention was still intact and ready to play a crucial role in their plan. "I've already upgraded Luna," she told Marcus confidently. "It has EMP capabilities now. One pulse and all their electronics will shut down." Marcus raised an eyebrow, impressed. "You've been busy." "It's what I do best," Amara replied with a grin. While Amara finalized Luna's modifications, Marcus prepared his digital avatar, a virtual version of himself that could navigate cyberspace undetected. The avatar would allow him to spy on the auction without being physically present. From there, he could gather intel, sabotage communications, and broadcast Grayson's crimes to the world. At the same time, Zane set up a network of proxy servers to string the footage live. His goal was simple: make sure everyone saw the truth. Once the public learned about Grayson's corruption and the syndicate's illegal activities, there would be no turning back. A risky escape. By late afternoon, Amara grew restless. Sitting in the holding cell wasn't helping anyone. She needed to act. With Zane's guidance, she began hacking into the station's automated systems again. This time, her target was the robotic guards patrolling the hallways. "These bots are old models," Zane informed her. "Their AI isn't very advanced. You should be able to override them easily." Amara cracked her knuckles and got to work. Within minutes, she had taken control of two guards. She programmed them to escort her out of the station, under the pretense of transferring her to another location. To anyone watching, it would look completely normal. As the robots led her through the corridors, Amara kept her head down, avoiding eye contact with the real officers. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she forced herself to stay calm. One slip up, and the entire plan would fall apart. When they reached the exit, Amara spotted Zane waiting outside in his beat-up hovercar. Without hesitation, she climbed in, and they sped away before anyone realized what had happened. "You did it," Zane exclaimed, grinning ear to ear. Amara let out a shaky laugh. "Don't celebrate yet. We got work to do." Reuniting and preparing. Zane drove Amara to a secret hideout, an abandoned subway station deep beneath the city. It was dark and damp, but it served its purpose. Hidden from prying eyes, It was the perfect place to finalize their preparations. Marcus joined them shortly after via hologram. Seeing his daughter's face filled him with relief. "I'm glad you're safe," he said, his voice tinged with emotion. "Thanks to Zane," Amara replied, nodding toward her friend. "He's been amazing." Marcus gave Zane a grateful nod. "We couldn't have done this without you." The three of them spent the rest of the day going over every detail of the plan. Marcus emphasized the importance of coordination. Timing was critical. If anything went wrong, it could jeopardize not only their mission, but also their lives. "We'll strike at midnight," Marcus announced. "That's when the auction begins. Amara, you'll deploy Luna as soon as the doors open. Zane, you'll handle the broadcast, and I'll cover us digitally." Everyone agreed, their determination unwavering. As they worked, Marcus couldn't help but marvel at his daughter's resilience. Even in the face of danger, she remained calm and focused. She reminded him of why he became an FBI agent in the first place, to protect people like her. A moment of reflection. Later that evening, as the team took a short break, Marcus pulled Amara aside. "I'm proud of you," he said softly. "You've handled this whole situation with such strength." Amara looked surprised. "Really? I thought I messed up by getting arrested." Marcus shook his head. "No, you didn't mess up. None of this is your fault. What matters is how you respond to adversity. And you've done that beautifully." Tears welled up in Amara's eyes, but she blinked them away. "Thanks, Dad. That means a lot." They hugged tightly, drawing strength from each other. For the first time since her arrest, Amara felt truly hopeful. With her dad by her side, and Zane backing them up, she believed they could win. The calm before the storm. As midnight approached, the tension in the subway station grew palpable. Amara double-checked Luna's settings, ensuring it was ready for deployment. Zane tested the proxy servers one last time, confirming the broadcast would go live without interruption. Marcus reviewed the layout of the underground facility, memorizing every entrance and exit. "This is it," Marcus said finally. "Let's show them what happens when they mess with the wrong family." Amara nodded, gripping Luna tightly. "Let's do this." With their hearts racing and their resolve unshaken, the trio prepared to confront Grayson and the Black Claw Syndicate. The stakes were high, but they were ready. Together, they would fight for justice, not just for themselves, but for everyone who had suffered because of corruption. Little did they know the battle ahead would test them in ways they never imagined. The clock struck midnight, and the city of New Haven fell eerily quiet. In the abandoned subway station, Marcus, Amara, and Zane stood side by side, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of holographic displays. The air buzzed with tension as they prepared for the biggest challenge of their lives. Tomorrow night's auction would be the battleground where justice would either triumph or crumble. Marcus took a deep breath, his voice steady but firm. "All right, team, let's go over the plan one last time." Amara nodded, holding Luna, the now upgraded drone, securely in her hands. Its sleek surface gleamed under the dim light, ready to play its part in dismantling the Black Claw Syndicate. Zane adjusted his headset, ensuring the broadcast system was primed for action. They had rehearsed this moment countless times, but nothing could fully prepare them for what lay ahead. The role of each member. Marcus began by outlining everyone's responsibilities. "Zane, you'll stay here and handle the broadcast. Once we expose Grayson and the Syndicate, your job is to make sure the world sees it. No delays, no interruptions." Zane gave a confident thumbs up. "Got it. I'll stream everything live." "Good," Marcus continued. "Amara, you'll deploy Luna at the entrance of the underground facility. Use its EMP capabilities to disable their electronics. That should give us enough time to act before they recover." Amara tightened her grip on Luna. "I won't let you down, Dad." Marcus placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "I know you won't. And I'll be there digitally, using my neural implant to infiltrate their systems. I'll gather intel, disrupt communications, and feed you real-time updates." He paused, looking at both of them. "Remember, timing is everything. If we don't move together, the whole operation falls apart. Stay sharp." The underground facility. The underground facility beneath Kane Tower was a fortress. High-tech security systems guarded every corner, and armed guards patrolled the halls. Inside, wealthy buyers mingled with criminals, eager to bid on stolen tech and illegal inventions. Among them was Officer Grayson, standing confidently near Victor Kane, the leader of the Black Claw Syndicate. Grayson smirked as he watched the auctioneer take the stage. "Tonight's going to be profitable," he muttered to himself. He didn't notice the faint flicker of the security cameras overhead, a sign that someone was tampering with the system. Unbeknownst to him, Marcus's digital avatar had already infiltrated the facility's network. Through his neural implant, Marcus navigated the virtual landscape, gathering data and planting viruses to sabotage the syndicate's operations. He sent a quick message to Amara. "You're clear to enter." Deploying Luna. Amara crouched in the shadows outside the facility, her heart pounding. She glanced at Luna one last time before launching it into the air. The drone zipped silently through the vents, guided by Amara's wristband. When it reached the main control room, she activated its EMP function. A sudden pulse of energy surged through the building, knocking out all electronic devices. Lights flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. Alarms blared, and chaos erupted as guests scrambled to escape. Guards shouted orders, their weapons useless without power. Back in the subway station, Zane cheered quietly. EMP deployed. Perfect timing. Amara allowed herself a small smile. Phase 1 complete. Marcus strikes digitally. Inside the digital realm, Marcus seized the opportunity. With the syndicate systems offline, he accessed their private servers, downloading incriminating files and transferring them to Zane's broadcast system. At the same time, he hacked into the auctioneer's microphone, amplifying his voice across the entire facility. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus announced, his tone icy and authoritative, "welcome to the downfall of the Black Claw Syndicate." Confusion rippled through the crowd. Grayson froze, his face pale as he realized something was terribly wrong. Before he could react, Marcus projected footage onto the walls, videos of Grayson meeting with Kane, falsifying evidence, and accepting bribes. The truth was undeniable. "This isn't possible," Grayson shouted, turning to Kane. "How did they?" Kane glared at him, fury burning in his eyes. "You said this place was secure." "It was," Grayson stammered. But even as he spoke, the screen switched to new footage. Amara's arrest, the fake evidence planted on her drone, and Grayson's history of corruption. The guests gasped, some snapping photos with their phones while others fled in panic. Amara enters the fray. With the facility in disarray, Amara made her move. Using the cover of darkness, she slipped inside, avoiding the few guards still attempting to restore order. Her wristband guided her toward the vault where confiscated tech, including Luna, was stored. She found the vault door slightly ajar, its electronic lock disabled by the EMP. Pushing it open, she stepped inside and scanned the shelves. There it was, her original prototype, sitting untouched among other stolen gadgets. She grabbed it quickly, tucking it safely into her backpack. As she turned to leave, she heard footsteps approaching. Ducking behind a stack of crates, she peeked out cautiously. It was Grayson, his expression frantic as he searched for an exit. Amara clenched her fists, torn between confronting him and staying hidden. Before she could decide, Marcus's voice crackled through her wristband. "Amara, get out of there. Now." She hesitated for a moment, then obeyed. Retracing her steps, she exited the vault just as backup arrived. Real FBI agents summoned by Marcus. They stormed the facility, arresting everyone in sight. The broadcast goes live. Back in the subway station, Zane hit the final button. The footage streamed live to every major news outlet, social media platform, and government database. Within minutes, the entire city, and soon the world, knew the truth about Grayson and the Black Claw Syndicate. Phones buzzed everywhere as people watched the shocking revelations unfold. Protests erupted outside police stations, demanding accountability and reform. Hashtags like #JusticeForAmara and #ExposeCorruption trended globally, sparking conversations about systemic racism and abuse of power. In the midst of the chaos, Grayson was dragged away in handcuffs, screaming protests that no one believed anymore. Victor Kane tried to escape but was captured by FBI agents moments later. The once powerful syndicate crumbled under the weight of his own crimes, reuniting and reflecting. By dawn, the battle was over. Marcus, Amara, and Zane met back at the subway station, exhausted but victorious. Amara hugged her dad tightly, tears streaming down her face. "We did it," she whispered. "We actually did it." Marcus smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. "Yes, we did, and we couldn't have done it without you." Zane grinned, leaning against the wall. "Not bad for a couple of hackers, huh?" They laughed, the sound echoing through the empty station. For the first time in days, they felt a sense of peace. Justice had been served. not just for Amara, but for everyone who had suffered because of corruption. Looking ahead, as the sun rose over New Haven City, the trio knew their fight wasn't entirely over. While Grayson and the syndicate were gone, the larger issues of inequality and injustice remained. But they also knew they had made a difference. Together, they had proven that courage, determination, and teamwork could overcome even the darkest forces. Amara looked at her dad, her eyes shining with pride. "What's next, Dad?" Marcus thought for a moment, then smiled. "Next, we keep fighting for fairness, for equality, for a better future, one step at a time." And with that, they walked out of the subway station, ready to face whatever came next. The morning sun bathed New Haven City in warm golden light, but the streets were far from calm. Protests had erupted overnight, fueled by the viral footage of Officer Grayson's corruption and the Black Claw Syndicate's crimes. People marched with signs that read, "End police brutality," "Justice for Amara," and "Expose the truth." The city buzzed with energy as citizens demanded accountability and change. At the heart of it all was Amara Johnson. Her arrest, and the subsequent exposure of Grayson's lies, had sparked a movement. What started as a personal battle against injustice had grown into something much larger, a call for reform across the nation. Amara stood on the sidelines, watching the protests unfold, her heart swelling with pride and determination. Her father, Marcus Johnson, was equally moved. As an FBI agent, he had spent years fighting crime, but never had he seen such widespread unity. The public outcry gave him hope, not just for his daughter's future, but for everyone affected by systemic oppression. Together, Marcus and Amara reflected on everything they had been through and how far they had come. The aftermath. Grayson and Victor Kane were now behind bars awaiting trial. Evidence against them was overwhelming. Videos, audio recordings, financial transactions, and witness testimonies painted a damning picture. The media couldn't get enough of the story, and every news outlet covered it extensively. Journalists praised Amara and Marcus for their bravery, calling them heroes who stood up to corruption. But fame wasn't what motivated them. For Amara, it was about proving that she, and others like her, deserved respect and fairness. For Marcus, it was about protecting his family and ensuring no one else suffered because of prejudice and greed. Amara returned to school after missing several days due to her ordeal. At first, she worried about facing her classmates, unsure how they would react. But to her surprise, they welcomed her back with open arms. Some even approached her during lunch to express admiration for her courage. "You're so brave," one classmate said. "I can't believe you took down those bad guys." Amara smiled shyly. "I didn't do it alone. My dad and my friend Zane helped me." Word of her invention, Luma, spread quickly too. Teachers encouraged her to showcase it at upcoming tech expos, recognizing its potential to revolutionize emergency response systems. Amara felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing her work could make a difference in the world. The trial. Weeks later, Grayson and Kane faced justice in court. The trial was highly publicized, drawing massive crowds both inside and outside the courthouse. Protesters gathered daily, holding vigils and chanting slogans. Inside, the courtroom was packed with reporters, activists, and concerned citizens. Marcus testified as a key witness, recounting how he uncovered Grayson's corruption and linked him to the syndicate. His testimony was backed by irrefutable evidence, including the files retrieved from Grayson's private server. Amara also took the stand, sharing her side of the story with quiet strength. "I didn't do anything wrong," she told the jury, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "I built Luna to help people, not to cause trouble. But Officer Grayson didn't care about the truth. He judged me based on how I look, not who I am." Her words resonated deeply, leaving many in the room visibly moved. Even the judge seemed affected, nodding solemnly as she spoke. In the end, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. Grayson was sentenced to 20 years in prison without parole, while Kane received a life sentence for his role in human trafficking and illegal tech smuggling. Cheers erupted outside the courthouse as the news broke, signaling a small but significant victory for justice. A hero's recognition. With the trial over, attention turned to Amara and her achievements. Tech companies reached out, offering scholarships and internships. Schools invited her to speak about her experience, hoping to inspire other young innovators. Amara accepted some offers, eager to share her story and encourage others to pursue their passions. Her big moment came at the annual New Haven Tech Expo, where she presented Luna to a global audience. The stage lights shone brightly as she stepped forward, clutching her drone nervously. The crowd fell silent, hanging on her every word. Luna isn't just a drone, Amara began, her voice growing stronger with each sentence. It's a symbol of hope, a reminder that we can use technology to help people, not hurt them. It's proof that even when things seem impossible, we can find a way to make a difference. When she finished speaking, the audience erupted into applause. Cameras flashed, capturing the moment for posterity. Amara beamed with pride, knowing she had made her mark on the world. Marcus's legacy. For Marcus, the events of the past weeks reinforced his commitment to fighting injustice. He continued working with the FBI, focusing on cases involving police corruption and systemic racism. His efforts earned him recognition within the agency, and he became a leading advocate for reform. Outside of work, Marcus cherished the bond he shared with Amara. Their journey had brought them closer than ever, strengthening their relationship in ways neither had anticipated. They spent evenings discussing ideas for new inventions, brainstorming ways to use technology for good. One night, as they sat together under the stars, Marcus turned to Amara. "You know," he said softly, "you've taught me something important." "What's that?" Amara asked curiously. "That sometimes the smallest actions can spark the biggest changes. You stood up for yourself, and look what happened. You inspired a movement." Amara blushed, humbled by his words. "We did it together, Dad. None of this would have been possible without you." Marcus smiled, pulling her into a hug. "That's what family does. We protect each other, no matter what." A brighter future. As time passed, the impact of Amara and Marcus's actions became clearer. The protests sparked nationwide conversations about racism and inequality, leading to policy changes and increased accountability within law enforcement. Schools implemented programs to teach students about ethics and innovation, using Amara's story as an example of resilience and creativity. Amara herself became a role model for young people everywhere. She traveled to conferences, schools, and community events, spreading her message of hope and determination. Her dream of helping others through technology grew bigger than she ever imagined. Meanwhile, Marcus remained steadfast in his mission to create a fairer society. He knew the fight wasn't over, but he also knew progress was possible, one step at a time. Closing thoughts. Months later, Amara stood on a hill overlooking New Haven City, Luna hovering beside her. The skyline gleamed in the distance, a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. She thought about everything she had been through, the arrest, the escape, the battle against corruption, and smiled. "We did it, Luna," she whispered, patting the drone affectionately. "We showed them what happens when you stand up for what's right." Behind her, Marcus joined her on the hill, placing a hand on her shoulder. Together, they watched the city thrive, knowing they had played a part in shaping its future. Justice had won, but more importantly, hope had triumphed. And as long as people like Amara and Marcus kept fighting, the world would continue to grow brighter.